We've been taught to live backwards. We try to change the outside world before we change ourselves. We try to force peace while internally living in chaos. And maybe that's why so many people feel exhausted. Because creation can never come from what has already been created. The outer world is the echo. The inner world is the cause. There's a saying that always fascinated me, and maybe some of you have heard it from your parents. Do as I say, not as I do. But the more I meditated on that idea, the more I realized that's backwards too. Because people are not transformed by what we say. They are transformed by what we embody. And perhaps that's why the world feels so chaotic right now. We are trying to change circumstances without changing consciousness. So in this video, I want to share 6 powerful shifts that helped me stop absorbing the chaos of the world and start finding peace within myself. Not temporary peace, not escapism, but real peace. The kind that remains even when life feels uncertain. So one of the greatest causes of suffering is constant reaction. Stay with me here. Most people wake up and immediately enter reaction mode. They react to the news. They react to social media. They react to other people's moods. They react to circumstances. And after a while, they no longer know who they are outside of reacting. Their nervous system never rests. The mind becomes overwhelmed because their attention is constantly being pulled outward. But Neville Goddard taught that we should never accept appearances as final. Why? Because the outer world is always reflecting past consciousness. It is not the source, it is the result. And if we constantly react emotionally to appearances, we keep recreating the same internal state over and over again. Peace begins when you stop allowing the outside world to dictate your inner world. That doesn't mean ignoring life. It means remembering that your consciousness must lead your reality, not the other way around. So most people believe every thought that enters their mind, but not every thought is true, and not every thought deserves your attention. One of the greatest shifts I ever made was realizing I am not my thoughts. I am the awareness observing them. The mind is a tool. You are the one using it. But if we never observe our thoughts consciously, they begin using us. And many people are living inside mental loops they never choose. Fear, lack, unworthiness, comparison, doubt. The problem is not that these thoughts appear. The problem is that we identify with them immediately. We say, this is who I am. But thoughts are often conditioned patterns from the past. They are habits of consciousness. And peace begins when you create space between yourself and the noise in your mind. Instead of saying, I'm anxious, you begin saying, I notice anxiety arising in me. That one shift changes everything, because now awareness is leading the mind instead of the mind controlling your awareness. So let's embody this state you desire before evidence appears. This may be one of the hardest things for people to understand. Most people wait for peace before they allow themselves to feel peaceful. They want the money before they feel abundant. They wait for love before they feel worthy. But consciousness does not work that way. Neville Goddard said, feeling is the secret, meaning the emotional state you repeatedly occupy eventually becomes your reality. The state you live in becomes the life you live in. And this is why living from the outside in creates suffering. Because if your emotional state is always dependent on circumstances, You will never feel stable internally. You become emotionally controlled by conditions. But peace begins when you choose your state before the evidence arrives. Not because you are pretending, but because creation begins within consciousness first. Everything external was once internal. Every result was once a thought. Every creation was once imagined. Every identity was once practiced emotionally. So instead of asking, what is the world giving me? Ask another question. What state am I living from daily? Because your state is shaping your reality more than your circumstances are. Your mind is an environment, and most people allow negativity to enter it all day long without realizing the effect it has. The conversations you entertain, the content that you consume, the people you surround yourself with, the emotional energy you repeatedly absorb, all of it affects consciousness. And then people wonder why they can't find peace. You cannot plant peace in chaos every day and expect serenity to grow. You cannot feed your mind fear constantly and expect clarity. The mind responds to repetition, which means whatever you expose yourself to repeatedly becomes normalized internally. This is why protecting your inner world, it matters. Not from fear, from wisdom. Fear requires intentionality. Sometimes growth means turning down the noise long enough to hear growth again. And in today's world, silence has become rare. But silence is sacred because clarity often arrives quietly. I truly believe one of the reasons so many people feel lost is because they have disconnected from purpose. A distracted mind suffers. A purposeful mind directs. When we are not connected to something meaningful, the mind begins wandering aimlessly. A wandering mind often creates anxiety, fear, and emotional chaos. Purpose organizes the energy. It gives direction to consciousness. And purpose does not always mean building a massive business or changing the world. Sometimes purpose is becoming more of who you truly are. Sometimes purpose is healing. Sometimes purpose is finally expressing your gifts instead of hiding them. But when you begin moving towards something meaningful, something shifts internally. The energy changes. You stop obsessing over everything outside of you because your attention becomes focused. And where attention goes, energy flows. Peace often appears when the soul feels aligned with where it is going. So stillness changed my life because stillness is where you finally hear yourself again. Not the world, not conditioning, not fear, yourself. Most people are terrified of stillness because they have spent their whole lives distracting themselves from what they truly feel. But healing begins when you stop running. Meditation taught me something very powerful. Peace is not something you find outside of yourself. It is something that you remember underneath the noise. It was always there. Neville often spoke about manifestation, imagination as the creative power of consciousness. And imagination becomes clearer in stillness. Creation begins in silence before it appears in form. That is why daily stillness matters. Even a few moments a day of sitting quietly, observing your thoughts, reconnecting with yourself can begin changing your entire inner world. And once the inner world changes, the outer world eventually follows. The world may always contain noise. There may always be uncertainty, conflict, distraction, and fear. But that does not mean you must live in noise internally. And perhaps enlightenment is not escaping the world, but learning how to maintain your center within it, to become someone whose peace is not dependent on circumstances. Someone who no longer waits for the outer world to grant them permission to feel whole. Because real transformation begins within, always. And if this resonates with you, subscribe to the channel. This space is for people who are ready to transform their lives from the inside out. Thank you for joining. I'll see you on the next video.